It sort of touches on the subtle art of wrapping up a text conversation.
It's like a half-life. This text is like slowly dying. It was just like, I'm not dead yet. I'm almost still dying.
Dear Shandy. Welcome back to Dear Shandy, listeners. Hello, Andy.
Oh, hello.
It's Caller Day.
It sure is.
We always love Caller Day.
Yeah, it's the best.
I think it might be one of our favorites.
I look forward to it almost the most.
Almost the most. Mm-hmm. We are joined today by Nicole. Nicole, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Do you mind giving us your age, your region, and your general predicament?
Sure. I'll try and keep it short, although I know you guys like specificity. But my name is Nicole. I'm 27 and from the Boston area.
Great. All right, let's hear it.
All right. So a couple weeks back, I attended a friend's wedding. We met while we were both going to college, and we had similar majors. We were working in a restaurant together. And we hit it off and have just kind of stayed close ever since. That being said, I've only met a handful of her family and her now husband. So wasn't going to really know anybody at this wedding. And they were kind enough to give me a +1 and told me to bring along a girlfriend so that I could have someone to have to be able to enjoy myself.
Well, it's a loose policy. Oh. We were like, unless you currently have a joint checking account, we don't want you at our wedding.
Our rule was married, engaged, or living together. But so that's very, very loose, very generous.
Yeah, very generous.
Yeah, very kind of your friend.
I know. I made sure to double check, and they were very, very sweet of them.
Very nice.
So we had a great time. The wedding kind of had a few hiccups with the weather. There was a thunderstorm. So there was it was supposed to be outside. We ended up having to go back in and out multiple times throughout the night. And therefore we lost a lot of time. And the wedding ultimately ended up kind of early. However, I was still able, to meet someone, and it was at the dancing part towards the end. My friend was pointing out to me that the best man appeared to not be there with anyone. And she was like, he's pretty cute. He had a really sweet speech. You should go in there and make a move. So I waited a few minutes. He was headed over to the bartenders, which I had made friends with earlier in the night. Shout out to Oscar. And we immediately started talking, and he, was like, "Oh, how do you know the bride and groom? Did you go to school with them?" And I said, "Oh no, I actually worked at the restaurant with the bride." And he was like, "Oh, so you're Nicole?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I guess I am. I don't know." And he was like, "The bride told me so much about you. Like, it's so nice to meet you." And so from there, we ended up talking and dancing a little bit. Like I said, the night ended early, so a bunch of us went to a restaurant afterwards for some more drinks, where we were able to kind of continue getting to know each other. There at the restaurant, a few of his family members kept kind of making eyes over at me and came up to me and were like, "Oh, do you find anybody cute?" And I was like, "Well, so we'll call him Matt. Matt seems very sweet and cute." And they were like, "Oh, great. It's mutual. Like, we need to make this thing happen."
Is this an Italian or Jewish wedding? I know it's one of the two.
Italian.
Okay. I knew it was one of the two. The bride is an
Italian, yes.
Yeah, this doesn't have this. I know. Yeah. Let's just say it happens a lot at Italian and Jewish weddings. Okay. Go ahead.
There we go. This would have been my first Italian wedding. So we continued to hit it off, and we ultimately were talking for a lot longer than I thought. I thought it was only a few minutes. And then I looked over, and my friend was, kind of passed out in a chair, poor thing. So then I was like, "Oh, I got to get home. I got to bring her back." And, he was like, oh, don't leave. Like, we're having such a great time. We exchanged numbers. He messaged me, to make sure I got home okay. And seemed to be, in my opinion, pretty like open and forward with the messaging. Like, I feel like he wasn't really playing any games. Just mentioned that he was really happy to have met me and that, he was really sad our time was cut short, but that just means we'll have to see each other again soon. Ultimately, it ended up being like 3 or 4 in the morning. So I had to go to sleep and woke up to a text in the morning. And
what was the text? What was the text in the morning?
I'm sorry, our time was cut so short. We should get together sometime soon. So I waited to respond. I responded in the morning and said, I had a great time too, and was really happy to have met him as well. And then he took a while to respond, but did say, the bride really talked you up and you did not disappoint, and just kind of like kept going with that forwardness, I guess, whatever you want to call it. But it was quite a few hours in between texts. But I knew that the family was getting together the next day for a cookout. So I was trying not to go crazy, first day.
When you say the family, you mean the wedding? Like it was still the wedding? Was it still a wedding affair?
The wedding group, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Both families, like immediate families,
Okay.
had a backyard cookout. It happened to be Father's Day. So they were all just getting together. So I didn't hear from him for a few hours. Ultimately, like early evening, he texted me and was like, Nicole, I'm so sorry that it took me so long to get back to you. Like, I'm not normally this bad with my phone. We were at a cookout with everyone from the wedding and all of our families. And I was like, oh, please, you don't need to apologize. I understand uninterrupted family time. Like, it's important, which he seemed to like the message. He hearted it and was just like, well, I just really look forward to getting to see you again. But again, that message took another like 3 or 4 hours in response to mine. So I work long days and very early. So I had fallen asleep. So now we're into Monday morning, and again, responded, took like half the day to get a response from him, was trying to like secure a day to get in person and go on a date or something. But it just never kind of came up because the messages were so sporadic, I guess. And then I didn't hear from him for 3 days.
What was the last exchange?
Yeah, I want to know that too.
The last exchange.
Do you have it? Because if you
yes.
could read it, if you're not comfortable reading it, that would be great.
Yes, I totally can. I'm just going to start from the beginning, if that's okay. So, hey, just wanted to make sure you got home safe was from him. He said, hey, just got home from dropping off my poor hostage, which was my friend, home. And he said, haha, good. I'm glad you got back home okay. Also glad I met you. I said, thank you for checking in. That's really sweet of you. Also glad I met you too. And then he responded, of course, not gonna lie, the bride was talking you up. You didn't disappoint. But in all honesty, I was hoping you'd stick around, but guess that just means we'll have to see each other another time soon. So then I responded Sunday morning and I said, oh, was she talking about me? I can't believe that she didn't mention you before. And I said, yes, I'd love to meet up if you're up for it. Responded a few hours later, said, I asked her if any of her friends were going, and she said, oh, you haven't met Nicole. And then he agreed to meeting me, said, yeah, absolutely, I'd love to. So then there was the message, several hours later, of promising not always being bad with his phone. Let's see. So the following morning, the Monday morning, he said, because I apologized and I said, I promise I'm not always that much of a grandma. And then I mentioned the comment about not worrying about family time. I understand it's important. So then he said, don't worry at all. I'm pretty sure I went to bed not too long after I texted you. I was so tired. Even today I was dead. How was your Monday? So then I responded with, I can imagine it's a lot of work being in the wedding party, yada, yada. It kind of went, I feel like I'm going, he asked about my Monday. So I said, I can't complain. I was training someone at work. So just a lot of talking, but nothing too crazy. So he said, so much, weddings are so much fun, but so much work. I definitely felt some post-wedding blues yesterday and today, though. Just kind of sad it's over, you know? That's good, though. I'm glad you didn't have too stressful a day. And then I just said, oh, that's sweet. It's such a fun and happy time, especially with those two. So I completely understand. And then I said that I was coming up on my vacation. We had talked about that when we were together. So I said I was really excited. Took another few hours to respond and just was kind of monotonous about his day. Just said his day was good. That he had to switch, ended up finding someone to switch with him because he needed another recovery day. So then I talked about my vacation because I was going for a tournament with some friends that we play volleyball together. So I just said that we're going and that it's usually a lot of fun, and that was it. So I didn't hear from him from Monday night until Thursday night, which...
And you were the last to send the message about the volleyball.
I was
correct?
the last to send the message Tuesday morning when I woke up because he responded late Monday night. So then I woke up. It was like that same pattern. Woke up, responded, and then didn't hear from him. And, was like, oh, he's pretty delayed. Like, I'm not going to think too much into it. And then another day went by and then another day. So then I was like, am I being ghosted right now? And I guess I was just more shocked because I feel like I'd expect that from a complete stranger that I would maybe meet at a bar or something like that. But I think I was just putting more stock into that. He was a family member of the groom and they were close friends and they talked so highly of him. And
so how did it resume? Sorry.
So no, that's all right. So I waited and I wasn't sure. I didn't want to reach out again in case I was getting ghosted. So I was, reach out to a few friends, and majority were like, maybe he's just busy at work and just forgot about it. You should reach out. Just say like, hey, what's up? I was leaning on to the other end of the spectrum, but ultimately Thursday night, I was like, all right, I'll just shoot my shot one more time, a quick little message. And then if I don't hear from anything, that's it. So I ultimately reached out and just said, hey, just checking in. How are you? Which he did respond a few hours later. And I was just going to read it again because there's not much to this. So then he said, hey, Nicole, I know I said I'm not that bad with my phone, but the last couple of days at work have been crazy. So I apologize. Things are going well, though, adjusting back to the flow of real life. What about you? So then I was just like, I don't know. You might have to make it up to me. I was like, I'm sorry, work has been so crazy. Hopefully your week ends on a better note. And then just said I was officially at my volleyball tournament and that it has been quite the trip so far. So he ended up responding again very late and said, haha, no, I agree. I definitely have to make it up to you. And yeah, I mean, today wasn't too bad, but then I have tomorrow off. And that's awesome. How's it been so far? And so then I responded with, it's good. Hopefully you had some more time to recover. And then I just said, it's been good so far. Just had some trouble at the airport / hangry friends, but now everyone is fed and happy. LOL. And then never heard from him again.
And how long ago was that? Not that it matters.
3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And just because I want to be caught up to date, I remember there was an urgency to your email. You wanted to have an answer.
Yes.
So can you give us why?
Yes.
The reason why?
So the reason why I was just going to leave it, moved on, didn't get a reply. So I was like, that's my answer. But got the maid of honor reached out to me mentioning since the wedding went so terribly as far as like weather-wise and function-wise, that they are all doing a second celebration, a backyard continued celebration, which is not this weekend, it's the next weekend. So yeah, so now I'm going to have to see him again.
And if you did have, I think we have a gist of what your question is, but if you had to distill it down to a formal question, what would your question be?
How do you think I should interact when I'm there?
Also, I assume you want to know Andy's take on reading all that, correct?
Are you sure
Yes,
you want to
and
know
like-
my take? Are you ready?
No, and I am. Listen, I wrote into you guys because I appreciate your feedback always, and I, especially you, Andy. I know.
Oh, it's a tough job. Someone's got to do it.
I know, that's true.
So what happened is, and this is no reflection on you. This is just you can disagree with me if you want. I don't think you're going to, but I think what happened was he was drunk and he was feeling really good about you and all sorts of stuff. Sorry.
No, I'm not disagreeing
I
with
just want to make sure.
No.
And when he woke up in the morning, he was like, yeah, I liked her, but not enough for me to really keep my foot on the pedal. And the rest from the morning after the wedding till today, he's been at most tangentially interested at best. So what I would say is that forget about him. When you go to the wedding, treat him like
Anybody
an
else.
acquaintance without prejudice, though. Don't go over the top with your coldness because then it's just going to be you being small. But I would say act like you don't give a fuck. Okay? Just say hello. Like, oh, nice to see you again. How's it going? And then you go, oh, I need to go get a drink and talk to this person. Like, just like you would someone you kind of know, but don't really want to talk to that long, but don't want to be a jerk to. And that's it. Don't you dare.
Oh,
don't you
I was
dare.
about to say, don't you dare hook up with him.
Don't you dare do
You
anything
are
with him.
Not allowed to hook up with him.
Unless you,
All right.
unless, you know, that's all you want.
Yeah.
And you're done, which is not the case.
Yeah, based on the fact that you even wrote in, and there's, I sense an attachment to the story from you. There's the family connection, and he had heard about you, and his family came and spoke to you. There was just a lot of these little isms that could feel like it's the start of something special and kind of serendipitous and like a scene from a rom-com. I think you need to shed all attachment to that, because I do agree with Andy, whether or not he was drunk, whatever it was not interesting enough to him to keep his foot on the gas. I also think the text banter played a role in this.
I agree.
Rather the lack thereof.
I was going to add something about that. I'm just going to
No,
quickly,
I don't want to steal your thunder. Go
It
ahead.
was very, very
Dry.
not playful.
Dry.
There was nothing like, I didn't sense any flirting. It was just recapping like, I did this today. What did you do? Oh, I did this. I feel this way. There was no humor. There was no playfulness. There was no flirting. There was no nuance. There was nothing romantic about those texts. There was nothing like potentially romantic about those texts. And I'm not judging you. It takes two to make a flirty text. But there clearly was no spark.
Yeah. For me, it's funny you went in the drunk direction, which I do think you're right about. For me, I felt like with each passing text, I felt like whatever this had possibly potential to be was waning.
Yeah. It went from like chub to flaccid very, very rapidly.
There was one question I did have. The two of you live in the same city, I assume?
Yeah, not far.
Okay, so that was another thing. What was the reason for not following up? I wasn't sure. You know, when you meet at a wedding, there could be some long distance happening there. I agree with you. There is not much happening here.
I mean, honestly, now that you say the drunk thing, maybe I didn't even think of that. That definitely could have been a play, and it makes sense. But I was leaning into kind of like the messages just seemed like, how's it going? You know, like, how's your day? And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
You know, where is this?
not going anywhere.
Yeah, which
it
again
was
is
dead
not...
it was dead on arrival, those texts.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to take that, by the way, the wrong way. When I say he was drunk and then in the morning he was sober and he was like, oh, there was probably like he had an immediate connection. Like he liked, maybe it was physical, maybe it was mental. I don't know what it was. But whatever it was, there was something lacking. If it was physical, there was something lacking connection wise. And in the morning, he was like, okay, I'm no longer drunk, so I don't want the thing I wanted last night. And now the other thing that I think I would want probably wasn't there. I'm going to slowly back away. That's what I think happened.
Yeah, and I think the thing you're talking about is reflected in those texts.
Absolutely.
The connection, that je ne sais quoi that makes it easy to banter back and forth and easy for it to be playful and romantic. I gather, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you do not possess with this guy when neither of you are drunk.
Yeah. Based
on the text.
Yeah.
It's very possible. And those texts read like a murder scene. Like there's no question about what's happening here. What I'm curious about is, aside from the fact that he's being distant and remote, is there anything about him? Is there something about him that you really, really like?
I'm glad you're going there, because I was about to say, why do you want to keep talking to him?
Yeah.
I guess in person, I mean, I was definitely a little tipsy, not gonna lie. In person, the conversation was a little bit better, and it was there was some like touching.
Wow. Fireworks. A little bit better.
No. Honestly, I think I was putting more stock in that. It was a close family friend.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm putting myself in your shoes. The things you were putting stock into were not necessarily your conversation with him, but rather hearing that you had been discussed with other people and his family knew about you. And it feels like there's more there than there actually is, but it's just kind of smoke and mirrors.
I agree. Quickly, scale of 1 to 10. 1 to 10, physical attraction. What do you give him?
Like a 7?
Okay, scale of 1 to 10, everything but physical. What do you give him?
The whole story and shebang? I don't know. I guess 6.
So you got a 6. So you got a 6.5. If I said to you, I'm setting you up with a 6.5, would you be psyched about that?
I guess when you put it like that, probably not as much.
I mean, it's from you're telling me. I'm not telling you. So
yeah, no.
I don't think there's a lot lost here. I think it really comes down to how you behave when you see him, and you need to give him what he gave you.
Yes.
And that's it. There's you don't have a choice in this.
You do not owe him anything more than acquaintance behavior.
Cordial and brief interaction.
And perfectly pleasant.
Oh, yeah.
Don't
let on.
Yeah.
Don't just act as if it's like, oh, this is a family friend that I once met, and oh yeah, how you doing? Okay, I got to go talk to my girlfriends now. Nothing passive aggressive.
He doesn't need to know that it got to you enough for you to write into a podcast over.
Yeah. Definitely no Dear Shandy discussion.
He doesn't deserve the satisfaction of knowing that, in my opinion.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that he even necessarily did that much wrong here, honestly.
Yeah.
I appreciate that he
was
didn't
in a tough position.
Yeah. Well,
he could have done it better, but he was in the family connection makes it more difficult. For example, like in this situation, to be honest, ghosting right out of the gate would have been a more gentlemanly move, in my opinion, if he didn't have the family connection.
Here's the thing. For me, what was lacking was anything getting to the point where something was being asked, or like something flirty that would be like, hey, do you want to get coffee? Do you want to get a drink? Do you want to go to dinner? When things get to that point, then you can address the fact that maybe there isn't chemistry. It's at this point, it's just this back and forth of like meandering texts that don't really go anywhere. I'm not sure what he should have done so different. He felt an obligation.
Cordial, but when he woke up in the morning, he was like, I don't know if I'm interested in that. So then he was in this no man's land.
Yeah, and then he was just being kind of polite.
Right.
And then it just sort of faded off. I'm not saying that he did it right by any means, But I also think he could have ghosted from the get-go, or he could have just kept you sort of
There was no
like with a carrot dangling of like some vague promise of getting together sometime for far longer, which he also didn't do.
It's kind of one of these situations, specific situations where there's really no right thing to do.
I agree.
If I was him, what I probably would have done was I would have had coffee with you. I'd be like, hey, let's meet for coffee. Let me just give it a second shot and see if there's a spark there. And then at that point, make it clear, like, maybe we'll see each other again. And that's that. But at least I followed through with the, message I was giving the first night.
Yeah.
That's probably what I would have done.
You know what it kind of touches on, this whole scenario? It sort of touches on the subtle art of wrapping up a text conversation.
It's like a half-life. This text was like slowly dying. It was just like, I'm not dead yet. I'm almost still dying.
And Nicole, you are guilty of resuscitating a text thread that should have remained dead.
You raised the dead. It was a zombie text conversation.
Yeah. And we understand why you did it. We understand.
Yeah, it's totally human.
But I feel like in that kind of situation, just for like feedback for the future, I would suggest letting the conversation wrap in some way and letting the ball be in his court to then ask you out or pick it up again and see what happens with that, instead of the sort of long, like just extended update on each other's days as if you even know each other well enough to care all that much. Do you know what I mean?
Are you a cat person or a dog person?
I like both, but more dog.
Okay. Got it. I'm a
She
cat
knows you well enough to make that
face. She hates cats. She's just saying that for me. No, I get it. But as a cat person, I'm familiar with the ways of the cat. If you want attention from a cat, generally speaking, you ignore the cat. That's usually how it goes. So if you think you're dealing with a cat, ignore him. That's my advice. This guy's a cat.
All right.
You think this guy's a cat?
Yes. In this situation.
I think they're just not that compatible.
Yeah. No, that too. Yeah. But I'm just saying in general, in the future, I would say that if you're starting to get this feeling of, distance and non-reciprocation, just sit back and wait.
Put it on them.
Don't go to try to pet the cat.
Yeah. We're not saying ghost him, like suddenly stop responding to him, but just sort of wrap the conversation in like hope that works out for you. Like just
peace.
Yeah, peace. Did you say peace?
Peace. Just give one of those. Like that's it. Just an emoji.
Yeah, and then see what happens. That's one of those wait and watch situations.
Yeah. Okay.
Nicole, what were you expecting us to say?
Yeah, what were you expecting?
I was expecting kind of on the lines of this. I shouldn't be surprised because I listened to your podcast enough to know that kind of what you mentioned just makes perfect sense. Kind of hearing it from you, I think I maybe just needed to hear that to solidify my doubts. I definitely will not hook up with him, and we'll keep it cordial.
Excellent. Retain the power. I think you've already given him too much emotionally speaking.
Yeah, you've got to equal the universe again.
Yeah.
It's out of whack.
Yeah. Okay, Nicole, I hope that was helpful.
It was. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Keep us posted. I want to hear an update after you go to this second
I want that
update
to be extremely uneventful.
Okay.
Very boring
Just
update.
like the messages.
Yeah. I want to hear the sequel to that string of text messages. I went to the library today. What did you read? Books. I like books.
Oh, Nicole, you're such a good sport. Thank you so much for calling and good luck. We'll be thinking of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Have a great night.
Thanks. You too.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Oh, that was a lovely one.
A hoot. You know, what's good about that is, we could all laugh about it because there was never anything. Like, it's not like they didn't even hook up.
Yeah.
Like, it was never like they dated, they hooked up, or she slept with him, and then he goes. This is like the lighthearted
Lightest hearted. Oh my
Lightest
God.
hearted. Is that it? Lightheartedest. Lightest hearted.
Lightest hearted call.
Yeah.
Or situation. You're right. And actually, I maintain that the guy, sure, he could have done a few things differently, but he also, you know, he didn't try to just hook up with her because he knew she was interested and then ghost her. Like I think he honestly gave it a bit of a shot, but without alcohol in the mix and maybe not in person. That was a bad banter situation. And it was bad enough that I suppose he and her too, no one was like, let's meet and see if what we had is still there. It never even got to that point.
Never got to that point.
Yeah.
I don't want to vilify this guy.
Yeah,
he doesn't fall into the ghosters of past.
No.
Like we've had some bad ghosters. This guy is not one of those. He was in a tricky situation. You know, there was family connections there. He doesn't want to totally be a jerk.
Yeah.
And he also, I think, had a good time and a meaningful connection, drunk or not drunk, that first night. And then it was immediately apparent the next morning that there was the spark. It was one of those like campfires that someone doused water on. It's like in the morning, the cold mist of the morning, and you got cold ashen logs. Like he knew there was not even a spark. There was a spark like a mile away. It's not happening.
Yeah.
And she felt it too, but she denied it. I think more than him. I think his delay, he was kind of saying like in the first, those like hours and hours and delays, he's like, look, I can't break up with you. Like
There's
this is
nothing to
absurd.
end.
I'm not going to end this. Like, I don't think we really want to be like best friends. Like maybe we'll be acquaintances. Who knows? We're not interested in that. Like, I'm not sure what to do here, but you know, and I know that this spark is not here anymore. Whatever we had last night.
That was the vibe of his texting.
I think he was trying to like very gently be like, is there anything here?
I agree. And I think that really the only mistake she made was keeping it going. Like instead of analyzing why did he wait 3 hours to respond, she should have
been like
analyzed why he waited 3 hours to respond.
Peace emoji.
yeah. It just never wrapped.
No.
It just never wrapped. You got to wrap. It's not like when you have a text thread going with a girlfriend or a guy friend or even someone you're interested in. That's not just an ongoing life update, never-ending text thread.
So you don't think I was too harsh, right?
No, I think it's pretty clear when I think you're too harsh. Okay. I did not think you were too harsh. You're just honest.
I didn't want to make it sound like, you know, he was beer goggling. Like it's just that sometimes when you're drunk, you think there's a connection that's actually not there.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that. That's one of the reasons why people quit drinking.
It's
is
true.
Because they
suddenly have like a million terrible friends. Like, what the hell is wrong with me?
With never-ending text threads.
Yeah. Oh God! It's like I've been drunk every day for the last 2 years. I haven't had a single interesting text sent to me. You know what I found many times, and I've been in this situation on both sides.
Okay.
Many times, I found that if there's not a flirty, you know, lighthearted exchange in between the sort of mundane kind of like what you do today, it's over. Like I've had those things where it's like you got to sandwich it in there. If it's not there, there's nothing.
Yeah.
So you wake up the next day and it's like immediately, how are you doing? What do you do? What are you doing today? What are you doing tomorrow? What did you do this afternoon? Like who cares?
Well, then you're like talking to your parents.
You're talking to a friend at best or an acquaintance.
No, not even. I think at that point you're talking to someone with whom you're so close that it's just boring. Updates. Yes.
No, you're right. You're like you've been married for 10 years. And you're like, did you buy the groceries today? We need milk. Like, did you get milk? I asked you about milk yesterday.
It's true. It's so matter of fact.
How are you doing? I'm doing okay. You feel good? All right. That's it. That's marriage, ladies and gentlemen. Everything. Every day. But I've had that before, is what I'm saying. And I've always, when that first text is like, how are you doing? Like, what are you doing today? Even if that's the best they got, like that's their version of being flirty, I'm like, this is over.
Yes.
For me, it's over.
Yep.
And it's over if it's over no matter what.
This was always over. It was just a matter of how and when.
This is the thing about texting. It's like when I was a kid, I always get into this. I had to call girls on a phone. I had to meet girls in life.
Yeah.
You know, like there was none of this texting. So everything I did, you know, had to be
That's true. It had to be motivated.
Yeah.
Like there was true intention behind picking up the phone and calling a number.
High stakes.
Yes, you had to show up in person. It's more of a commitment than just sending a text 4 hours after you receive one, being like,
all the more reason that these texts have to have substance. Like you have to be like, this is it. We're not talking on the phone. I'm not seeing her face to face. We are having this text. So this text better be money.
Yeah.
Like this better be funny, playful, flirty, sexy, like something interesting.
Yes.
If you're just recounting what you're going to do, what you did, how you're doing, how you're doing.
Yeah.
No. Nope.
To her credit, after we wrapped with her, she expressed having a realization as she read it out loud.
Oh, yeah. I love Nicole.
Yeah.
I thought she handled this whole thing great.
Yes. And she expressed feeling like as she was reading them out loud, she was like, oh, God. Like it kind of became clear to her. And it's funny how in the moment, and again, when you're sort of clouded by hearing that his mother had heard about you or the friend had heard about you, or there was like, oh, you're Nicole, blah, blah, blah. You know, without all of that noise, do the texts look the same? In retrospect, they don't.
Yep.
It's almost like as an exercise, if you're not sure about a text exchange, you should read it out loud to a friend and see if it's still quite as magical.
To a judgmental friend.
Yeah. Or come on Dear Shandy and read it to us and we'll let you know.
If you dare.
Yeah. She was great. What a great sport.
I loved it.
I loved that she could take that.
Some of these calls, it's like high stakes.
Yes.
Like it's hard. It hurts my heart
Yes.
to do this. But this was easy.
Yes.
Like this was the lowest. This was like the nickel slot machine.
Yes.
Like who cares? But even if you win, it's not big. But
still, what we told her was something that maybe she didn't want to hear, and I thought she handled it really well.
she didn't want to hear, but she did know.
Yeah, she
knew. I do think that the reading of the text message conversations, if the caller is open to it, is
very
a place for entertainment and a lot of a revelation.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point, because at first we wanted her to just read the last few exchanges, but she's like, oh, I'll just read the whole thing. And we're like, okay.
If you dare, yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. That was extremely revealing.
Yeah. She couldn't even get through it. She was like, oh, this is terrible.
Yeah,
you could tell she was like skimming. She's like, and then we asked stuff about volleyball and I don't know, some other crap.
She got self-conscious as she read them out loud, which really says something about the quality of the exchange overall. She was great.
She was.
All right. Nicole. Big fans over here. I think that's a wrap for this call.
I think it is.
Moving on to the next. We are joined now by Leila. Leila, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Hi, Sharleen. Hi, Andy. It's great to be here. I'm so excited to be on this podcast. I never thought I would be.
Oh, so sweet. So would you mind giving us your age, your city or region, and your story?
Yeah, sure. I'm 21. Right now I'm living in Michigan, but originally from Texas. So a couple years ago, I was at my cousin's wedding. And, Day C weddings, they're like 4 days, a week long. Day C is South Asian for those who don't know. And so I was at one of the wedding events and I see this guy and he's, like tall, he's handsome, really cute. And he's like, hanging out with his siblings. He's rocking it on the dance floor. And I think he's obviously just really cute. Nothing special. I just kind of notice him and I think he's cute. And then after the event, I go home and I pray and I'm like, yo, God, like, please send me my soulmate.
That's actually an official prayer, isn't that?
Yeah.
Yo, God.
Yeah, yo, God.
An official prayer.
Give me what I want. Standing. Sorry,
yeah, anyways, there's like something about weddings that kind of makes you want to discover like your own love story.
Absolutely. I've been there.
And I'm definitely like a romantic at heart and I'm a journalist, so I love stories. And so, anyways, so I pray, don't really think about it, kind of forget about the guy. And then a week later, I'm supposed to meet up with one of my friends. And we were supposed to meet up in the morning, like around 11 a.m. And then my mom like asked me to run an errand for her. So we end up rescheduling, and we reschedule for like the afternoon, like around 3 p.m., 3:30, 4 p.m. And to the opposite side of town. So like we totally changed plans. And I get there, I'm running late, as I tend to do. And so I get to the table and I just sit down immediately. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I can't, sorry I was late. And then like 20 minutes into our conversation, I'm like, oh, like we've been here for a while. I should probably order a drink. And we're at Starbucks, by the way, if I forgot to mention that. And so anyways, I go up to the cash register, order. And this is like, it wasn't busy at all. This isn't a busy Starbucks, just a regular Starbucks in Texas, one of probably hundreds.
Not sponsored.
And the guy from the wedding is in line behind me, and he taps me on the shoulder. He's like, hey, like, how are you? And I like literally freak out. I'm like, oh my God, this is probably the sign that I was looking for. I mean, because what are the chances? It was like, I was in line for 2 minutes, maybe like a 2-minute window. And we changed both like the time and the location of our meeting. And I like, when I got to meet my friend, when I got there, like I didn't order a drink immediately. So it just seems like really random, like really bizarre. And the fact that I had prayed for it earlier just kind of made me think it was a sign. And so anyways, that weekend, I meet up with some other friends. I'm telling them about the story. They're like, oh yeah, like it's totally a sign. Like you should message him on Instagram. So I DM him. It wasn't a good response. I like DM'd him something about hanging out, and he was like, yeah, sure, have a good semester. Like very clearly ended the conversation. And then later I see him one more time at my cousin's house, and he seems like friendly, but also he gave like more fuckboy vibes than he had earlier. And I end up DMing him again that summer. Like, again, like I'm like totally not the kind of person to like DM people. I never do that. Like literally I only did this because I felt like it was a sign. And, my friends encouraged me, obviously. But that's like not really my personality. But yeah, I mean, anyways, it just seems very, very obvious that this guy isn't into me. And I know that. But like a part of me still kind of hopes and maybe wonders if he's endgame, like he's the person I'll end up with eventually.
Because of the story that led to you seeing each other again, right? It sort of feels like
Fate.
Serendipitous.
Yeah. Like maybe the timing's not right now, but maybe like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, like we'll end up together. And I feel like it's preventing me from like meeting new people or talking to other people. But like
this particular case or in general? Because I remember the title of your email was "Help, I'm obsessed with stories."
Yeah.
Do you feel like this mentality stops you in general, or just the eggs you've put in the basket that is this guy is holding you back, or both?
I mean, yeah, this has been a pattern with me. I feel like it's hard for me to get really invested in someone like without some sort of like fate story. And it's happened to me a couple times. Like there's this other guy I interned with over the summer. I thought he was cute, he was funny, whatever. And we're both like from the same like Muslim South Asian background. I decided to ask my mom, like, do you know his family? And it turns out like they used to be best friends. Like his mom visited my mom at the hospital when I was born. And then they got into some random argument, and they've been feuding for years. So I thought it was like a Romeo Juliet kind of situation. I invested in that guy. I liked him. And then it was kind of funny with that situation because I found out a few years later that he liked me. But when we met up, like he wasn't as cute or as funny. And he only asked me one question about myself. So I was like, yeah, I think that's
triple threat.
So if you were to distill this all down into one question, how would you word that?
Yeah, because the thing is, intellectually, I know that I shouldn't be invested. Like, I know that it's like, like, the story probably doesn't mean anything. It's more about kind of like compatibility and do you enjoy spending time with this person? But emotionally, like a large part of me just can't forget that. Like, it's hard for me to become invested in someone without that kind of story. And I don't know if that's like a function of me being 21 or...
The fact that you can, as a 21-year-old, you can recognize that as you're already well ahead of your years.
Yes.
And you're right. It is partially a function of you being 21. And you should, to be blunt, you should stop doing that. And I'll tell you why. Aside from the fact that it's a very bad idea, you're usually when you meet someone, there's rarely an amazing story that precedes it. What happens, I believe, is that when you meet the right person, it naturally, because they're the right person, becomes a good story. Does that make sense? So I don't think you should look for preceding meeting the person with the story. You should look for the meeting growing into a story because it's the perfect person for you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. And I base this on my own experience. And when I was 21, I was dating someone whom I met in a very romantic, very storybook way. And I loved our story. But ultimately, that love story wasn't meant to be. And then I had other boyfriends, most of whom also had great stories. It's sometimes you just meet someone on an app, and that's great too. And it doesn't make it any less magical if you really are that compatible. But I truly have had other love stories that I think would rival ours. Mm-hmm. No offense.
What? Impossible.
But of course we love our story, but if we weren't as compatible and didn't wind up together, it would be like, oh yeah, this guy I dated, this was kind of neat.
Yeah, I would have forgotten about it.
Yeah. A story is only as important and only has the weight that you give to it. And it really just comes down to the person. And I know it sounds trite, but we always come back to timing as everything. Maybe in an alternate universe, this guy is your person. I don't think so.
He's not your person.
Yeah. He's not your person. In
this universe or any universe. So stop.
Oh,
Yeah, he's not your person.
I mean, I personally think even if the stars were aligned, the way he treated you so dismissively, instantly, that story
right, exactly.
is out the window. What does it matter? If he's not going to make you feel valued and precious and like he also thinks it's a nice story. It cannot be one-sided.
There was no spark. It would be one thing if you guys had this kind of like really magical meeting. You had this exchange at the wedding and there was a spark. And then whatever, you DM'd him a few days later and he blew you off. Maybe then you'd be like, there was something there. I know there was something there. Let me go back to it. Let me revisit. But I don't feel like there was anything. There was no real interaction. So it was all kind of, you were mostly fabricating this romantic vision in your head, which is fine, but it was invalidated by his response.
Yes. And that's what's most important. And that's what needs to be focused on. Because to be honest, and you're gonna see as you get older, I don't want to ever sound like when you get older, but
yeah. Did you know that Shandy was such a bunch of dicks?
I just really feel like life is actually full of these serendipitous moments. It doesn't have to be with potential romantic partners, but sometimes things will happen. A great example is when we were in Tokyo, but right before the pandemic. I literally know one person in all of Tokyo, one person. And we were there for 6 days. And I didn't contact him because I didn't know him that well. And then Andy and I were on an escalator and he was on the other escalator going like this in a very busy part of Tokyo. And he's like, Sharleen. And it was just mind blowing. And if we were both single, maybe it would have been like, wow, this is fate.
Yeah, she slept with him anyway. I got over it.
But you know what I mean? I just think that the world is both very big and very small. Yeah. And sometimes these things just happen and it's just like, whoa. And sometimes they happen in a bad way. Like someone you wish you weren't seeing.
And if I had to add one thing, just to sort of give a little support to what I think you idealistically are looking for. I think if you're going to strive to create a story out of the meeting, I would suggest you try to meet someone offline. That would be my only recommendation to kind of endorse your plan. We met offline, and it was a very good story. And I have to say that the women that I've dated online, it wasn't a good story. It was just like, I met them online and we had a nice first date. Like, there's no real story. So I think you're kind of stuck in this idealistic mind frame. And I kind of support it if you pursue it realistically. And by that, I mean, pursue people in real life. Try to, I wouldn't say avoid internet dating, because I do think you're really shooting yourself in the foot, but
by not going online.
Yeah, put effort into meeting someone in the real world. And it will create a better story just by the nature of the meeting.
I have a slightly different take, because I think you can meet someone online and have a really beautiful story.
Sure.
For example, my ex before Andy, we met on Match. We lived in different countries and we became pen pals. We wrote these long, I think beautifully written emails to each other for like 3 months every single day before we met.
Little different than the usual way people meet online.
Well, but that's my point.
You.
It's like, even though we met online, it became a beautiful story because of what we made with it. Does that make sense?
It does, but just understand that that's a slightly out of the norm, like writing beautiful letters back and forth to each other for a long time.
Yeah, but we didn't have to do that.
Right.
That's my point. We didn't have to go to email and write long emails to each other.
Correct.
We could have easily prioritized meeting or just gone to text or whatever.
So in other words, nurture the like non-physical.
There are ways to make an online meet special. I think there are.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's besides the point. For me, I don't endorse this. I don't endorse prioritizing the story. I think it's an accoutrement. It's a side dish. What matters is that it's fully reciprocated, that those affections you're met at that halfway point. And then if you have a great story, that's a great topping. It's icing or the cherry, all the things you would put on a sundae.
Nuts. It's not that romantic.
Why did you go with like the least romantic? Leila, how are you feeling? Is this what you expected us to say?
Yeah, no, it's totally what I expected you guys
We're
to
so
say.
predictable.
I don't know. I guess it's just like, you can know something intellectually, but it's hard to like internalize that, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I'm not jealous that you're 21 and that online dating is what it is today. I'm not envious of that at all. I think that might be one of the reasons why you crave that so badly, is because the norm has become just swiping. I actually think there's tragedy in that, to be honest, and how people don't speak to strangers anymore. It's sad. And I can see how you're at a wedding, you see a guy who you think is cute. I can see how you would kind of want to make something out of it that it's not. Nonetheless, to me, the second you said he was dismissive, it's like, put a lid on it. It's over. And hopefully that, instead of inspiring you to seek stories, should serve as the poster child example of why you shouldn't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. He DM'd me like later randomly. I'd posted a book on my Instagram story. This was like literally a couple months ago. And he was like, "What's the book about?" And I'm like, "You totally could have just looked it up." But then like, again, there was like no conversation. So I'm a little confused. He also he views my Instagram stories regularly. I don't know if I'm reading into it too much.
You're reading into it.
Okay.
You are. I'm just being honest. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I'm just so like, it's
what they all do now. It's what everyone does.
Modern times disturbs me. I'm fearful.
Yeah.
It's just so strange how things work these days. But I will say, disregard, you already made enough moves with this guy. If the story wants to develop, then let it come from him. But I admire your idealism. I admire this goal of yours. I really do.
I think it's actually really sweet.
It's beautiful. Yeah. But don't let no story involved hurt your chances of meeting the right person. You meet the right person, the story will come. And make stories in the rest of your life. You have plenty other areas of your life to have good stories. I wouldn't put so much restriction on meeting a mate, because it's damn hard, even without having any rules. Also,
I'm just going to say, at 21...
You shouldn't be meeting a mate anyway.
Yeah. Are you really going to meet your like forever maybe you will, but do you really want to? That's a whole other thing.
Yeah, you are pretty young.
So put less stock in that. Just try.
Yeah.
I would focus more on the compatibility and learning what it is you even want in a relationship and a partner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say take it real easy, real relaxed.
I feel like this was the most predictable Dear Shandy answer of all time.
But in all fairness, she knew what was coming.
Yes. And I love that you're like, maybe this is a function of me being 21, because I do think it's a factor.
I wish at 21 I could say that. At 21, I thought I was like 80. I was like, I know everything.
I know in a bad way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I knew nothing.
In a know-it-all way.
Yeah. I knew just enough to be in very bad shape.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, I think it's also like partly because my parents have like a similar kind of like amazing serendipitous story, which is maybe why it's been like drilled into my brain that, you know, I should also have one. But yeah.
The dating, it's tragic. You're in a dating climate that doesn't really support that as the norm, I think.
I do believe that if your nature is to want this, then the person you meet, it will happen naturally. I believe that you will attract someone who wants a good story in meeting a partner.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And will romance her.
Yeah.
And vice versa in a way that it does turn into a beautiful story.
Yeah. Sometimes the way you project to the world projects back. So I predict you will, unbeknownst to you and in no way because of anything you did, you will have a great story when it comes to the guy of your dreams.
Whether you like it or not.
That you will meet on May 17th, 2024. That's another, did I tell you we're psychics too? This is another thing we're starting, right? Is it?
Sure.
We're doing that? Okay.
I'm going to put it down in my calendar.
Leila, thank you so much for calling. I just love your question. I thought it was really touching.
It's a really nice question. I like it too.
No, you're kind of an old soul. You belong almost in a different era.
Yep. Go back to like maybe 40 years ago and you'll be all set.
Even 10 years ago.
Yeah. Just before Napster, pretty much. That's where I cut it off.
It's more than 10 years ago.
Yeah. It's like 20 years.
Napster. She probably doesn't even know what Napster is. Do you know what Napster is?
Napster probably happened the day she was.
Doesn't know.
No. I'm the oldest man in the world.
Sorry.
That's terrible.
Leila, thank you so much for joining us. And I would say chill on that front. If it happens, it happens. It cannot be forced.
Agreed.
Well, yeah, thank you so much, guys. I think I
needed to hear it. So I appreciate it.
We enjoyed it.
Okay, thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
Bye. That was. I feel bad. I feel bad for young people dating in today's climate who want to meet cute, who want to meet out, who want something like that to happen. And it's such a dying art. The dying art is strangers meeting and I don't know, hitting it off.
Which usually involves some story. There's almost always, even if it was just like you met at a bar, like nothing special, just walked up to the bar, met someone, it's still a story. There's still something there.
Yeah.
The internet, and every time I say that word, I have to think of a new word that makes me sound less old. Is there a more cool word for the internet?
The internet.
There's nothing.
I think what makes you sound old is the fact that you're pronouncing the T.
The internet?
Yeah, the internet.
The internet?
Yeah. No, the internet. You can pronounce the last T. The internet.
Oh, the internet.
Yeah.
Oh, as opposed to the internet.
Saying the internet makes you...
Oh, I see what you mean. It sounds like the wide world web.
It's like
there's a lot of too much stopping. Or it's like putting the in front of things that don't have the.
Yes.
That makes you sound old.
Yeah.
I've started to do that. Anyway, so...
The internet.
Anyway, my point is that it makes it next to impossible for there to be any sort of fun spontaneity, good stories, like real life, and it sucks.
Yeah, it's such a domino effect. Knowing that at your fingertips, you have all these options of people who are single and looking, it just makes you super risk averse. Why would you put yourself in the line of fire of rejection in real life?
100%, but it also, it sucks out any of the magic.
Yeah.
Of how people meet in life. It sucks it out. It just makes it like cold, calculated, and algorithmic. I hate it. But I will say this, I very seriously share her desires, or I shared her desires.
Yeah.
I always wanted, the girl I was, two girls before you.
Two girlfriends
two
or
girlfriends
two girls?
before my ex-girlfriend. I always was upset how we met. This was online. And I was always, it was a good relationship.
Yeah,
And
you were
I
together
was
for
thinking
2
of,
years.
I was thinking of maybe even marrying her. But
Yeah.
it was like, I always was, and believe me, this isn't the reason why it ended, but it was always like this kind of like tiny pebble in my shoe. Like, I'm like, I wish we had met like kind of just at a thing or something. What I really do believe, though, that when you do meet the right person, there is a story. There's always a story because it's a meaningful event. You even if there is no story, you make a story. It just happens. But I feel for her, and I feel bad being so hard about the advice because I too was exactly like her, and not at 21, at like
31.
41. So I get
that's
it.
interesting. I think that's sweet that you were like that. I don't think I really shared that.
No, I know.
You know me. I'm so obsessed with being understood and feeling that cerebral connection, but the connection in all the ways that I was like, I don't care how I meet the person. What I care about is that.
Yes.
It's just a means to an end.
I agree. I've just always been a hopeless romantic. That's just who I am. And now I'm unhopeless, I guess, because I found you. I'm hopelessly romanticized. I've banished that curse.
Anyway, we do respect her pursuit.
I just want it to be as firm as possible because it's not something she should be doing right now.
It's not something you should prioritize. I think it's something that you appreciate. Like I said, a really great side dish. It is not the main course.
No.
It does not matter in the grand scheme of things. Other than when people ask you how you met, which they will, you can be like,
You can always lie too. Just make up some
True,
story.
you
Make up any
could.
story you want.
True, but you could be like, we met on Tinder. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
I've met people who are like,
And you know what? Knowing how the world's moving as fast as it's moving, there may come a day not that long from now where if you say you met on Tinder, they're like, oh my God, that's crazy. Because it'll be already so old. It'll
Obsolete.
be like so obsolete. It'll be like meeting at like a square dance. Or
that's
something.
true. Maybe it's possible Tinder's already heading that direction because now everyone meets via DMs.
Right. You never know. Things move fast.
They do.
Anyhow, good stuff.
Yeah, I liked that question.
Yeah, me too.
If you guys liked what you heard today, you can keep Dear Shandy afloat by liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification bell.
Giving us money.
According to Andy, giving us money.
Give us money.
Leaving an iTunes review, leaving an iTunes rating, following us on Instagram, where you can hear updates to questions like the one you heard just now. And I think we can wrap there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Dear Shandy. Bye.